Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from AnthonysCustoms, and for this review, we are looking at the Marvel Legends Toysrus exclusive A-Force 6-pack Loki figure, which is one of the top three. It's one of the top 3 figures of the bunch. Let's see if I can English for this video. It's pretty solid. There are some definite drawbacks on this thing, but they're only fairly minor, so I think we can get around them. So let's go ahead and get it off the stand and take a closer look. This figure stands to the top of the head. It's just about 6 1/4 inches. Of course, the horns do stick up just a little bit higher than that, and that's going to make it roughly just shy of 16 centimeters to the top of the head. Now, I want to point out this figure does reuse Actually, it reuses everything except for the add-on parts. So there's not a whole lot to see that's new here. I think personally that this is the best female mold overall. It's the particularly curvy one that we've seen for Moonstone and Spider-Woman and various other figures. In this case, Rogue. We can see her boot thingies right here. So I'm okay with that. I think it's pretty solid. We do have some issues though. These hands are way too big. They look like man hands on the figure. So it does throw off the proportions a little bit. And the way it's painted, having these little green spots on here, somehow makes the hands look even bigger. So it's not great in that regard. Mostly though, it works pretty well otherwise. So let's take the cape off, because that's one of the things I want to talk about first. The cape does not have a peg in it, which I like. I do appreciate that. It has 2 separate pieces, so the paints are nice and clean. Except for the fur part, there's lots of like gray spots. I don't know if it was supposed to be shading or what, but it just looks like the paint's been rubbed off. So be aware of that. Now the cool thing is this is a fairly thick piece, so it actually holds the cape on by wrapping around the shoulders, and it works very nicely. It does, however, impede articulation, because once the cape is on, I'll show you real quick. So it sits just fine, no problem at all. But once the cape's on, when you try to pose the figure, it's going to make the cape do weird things. So that's not ideal, but it does look cool when the hands are just down at the side. So you're going to have to decide if that's a good trade-off. Now the next thing I want to talk about, conveniently, is the neck. It's just that old school ball peg, which is normally okay, except when you put the head on it, you can't really make the head look down at all. The way it's sculpted, she's always looking up a little bit, which is a little bit of a bummer. And of course, with the cape, without the cape, you have a big gap right here. No big deal there. You can only lean it just a tiny bit. You can pretty much just rotate it. Now, the hair is soft enough to afford the range, but they just didn't sculpt it such that you could actually pose the head, which is kind of a bummer. Because the head is particularly nice. I think they did a really good job with the sculpt of the face and the paintwork. They added these little things throughout the hair, which are painted well enough, and then they added this as a separate piece so that there's nice clean paint job and nice clean sculpt. So, I mean, I like it a whole bunch, but the fact that she's looking up into the sky all the time is kind of a bummer. For the shoulders, we've seen these before. They go pretty much wherever you want them to. You have really nice range, full rotation. You have your bicep swivel, which is a nice addition. And then we have an elbow hinge, which is only a single joint, but you do get a little bit better than 90, and a secondary swivel, so that's pretty good. And then we have our wrist swivel, so that's pretty good. And then we have our hinge. So yeah, the hands are probably too big, but good articulation overall. For the diaphragm joint, it works pretty nicely. No problems at all there. Could be a little better, I guess. We've seen some better ones, but this one's still really solid. I like it. We have the floating belt piece, which is maybe a little bulky, but definitely not a problem, and it's painted well enough, so that's good. The hips don't go very far out to the side. That is definitely a bummer. Going forward, though, really no problem at all, so that's good. You do have your thigh swivel built in, so that's nice. Double jointed knees with that little piece right there. Still works really nicely. That's good. And then for the ankles, we can, let's see if it'll move. I can't get the foot to go any farther up forward. Going backward is no problem at all, and you have an ankle rocker, so that's pretty good. Now the last thing to talk about is the paint, and I think they did a really good job on this figure. It's molded in this kind of translucent, it's kind of translucent, but not really. It's not like it holds the light or anything, but it gives you this really cool pearly look. So I like that a whole bunch. And then on top of that, they did the scale mail paint job, which looks really cool. It's definitely very stylized since it's only in some areas, but it's nice and metallic and looks really, really nice. So overall, I'm just very pleased with the figure. And for the chest, it's actually painted skin tone, but they did a good job with that other than, I don't know if you guys can see it, there's a fairly severe scratch on mine, but otherwise they did a really good job with this thing. It looks really, really good. So I'm very pleased with it. There are, like I said, a few issues, but overall, it's easily one of the better figures of the bunch, and it's going to be a really nice addition to your collection. It's going to look cool on a shelf, so I think you guys are probably going to like it a whole bunch. So there it is, guys. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. I have new videos up every single day. We talk about action figures, movies, TV shows, video games, all kinds of fun stuff, so make sure you come back for that. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it, and in the meantime, keep collecting.